1, and I'm allowing.
Is on.
Oh,
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So before we start, yesterday I went to this Lisp meetup, Lisp New York City, and I invited a bunch of Lispers to come to our meeting. Even
Cool.
though, so let's not make fun of California. I'm sorry, let's not make fun of New York or Lisp being California Smalltalkers.
Promise. We like Lisp.
I'm an old retread, so I've written plenty of Lisp and scheme code, so it doesn't bother me at all.
Pretty much only scheme for me.
Yeah. So welcome everyone. We're going to wait a few more minutes for people to join.
And anyone should think of something for the lightning talk round. So if you have something to announce or to get other people excited about, that's what we will start with. Looks like Dan is the speaker for me. Oh, no, not anymore. I'm a speaker. Oh, whoever is speaking is the speaker. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Magic. Maybe people are learning that it only starts 10 minutes after the hour.
I hope not.
Yeah. Yep. They figured this out in the military. Everything starts at exactly the right time, because otherwise you're punishing the people who come there on time.
Right. So maybe we should just start.
It is a crowd that's used to late binding.
We could at least have a quorum.
Well, quorum without mandatory attendance is
Hard to accept.
hard to figure out.
Or a threshold. Maybe the threshold is 8.
We need to give out on-time credits, and you could spend them to move ahead in line when you got a question.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Now, can we tell who showed up first?
I don't know. Is the list here ordered in some way?
In the lineup, is it ordered? Yeah. I don't know. Don't think so.
Well, I don't even know if we all have the same ordering. I have John Reed at the bottom.
Oh, he's at the top on mine.
Oh, I'm at the
Here's
top
your
on
answer.
mine. I just assumed that the top was me just so I can see myself easily.
Yeah, it is. I meant he's below me.
Really? I see myself on the bottom.
Funny.
Yeah, I'm on the bottom.
I'm currently on the bottom in my view.
Well, I do like the way it keeps track of the speaker time. This way I can tell whether I'm being obnoxious.
Aha.
I don't know. I think you could probably do some quick zingers that might be more obnoxious than some long-winded nice things you could say.
I don't know if you watched that video, Craig. I think you'd really like it. It reminded me a lot of the live code and stuff you were doing in another.
Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah, that was cool. Thank you. Mike sent to me a Lisp Music Live Coder presentation. It's pretty cool. Used extempore.
But you
Is that
guys
an active group?
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool having like a Smalltalk flavored Erlang, sort of like Elixir. If you consider Ruby Smalltalk Lite.
Hmm.
So people making announcements. So there's a reason for people to queue in early. Let's see. There's a talk coming up in Argentina, right, on continuous development in one of the commercials in the Argentinian group one.
I don't know. No, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay.
There's some sort of visual age Smalltalk product announcement coming up.
Yes, I knew about that one. Yeah, it's next week, I think, right?
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah.
Exciting new features.
It will be both a company update, something like that, from top management, and also a technical update on new features. Yes, both things. Craig or Vanessa, Hernan is trying to get in. Hernan Wilkinson.
Oh, I don't see him trying.
Oh, I saw him joining, and I thought you let him in, Craig.
Oh, I do see a camera.
Oh yes,
Oh, he's
he's already in.
here.
Sorry,
He's here.
my mistake. Yeah, he's already in.
Yeah, I saw his camera.
I mean, sorry, I'm not connected, not online. But
Welcome. Well, it's been
My
about
mistake.
10 minutes. Maybe we can get started with some lightning talks. Welcome again, everyone, to California Smalltalkers for May 2021. We'll have a presentation by Ken Dickey on more direct Morphic in Curious. But first, we're going to have some lightning talks. Does anyone have a talk of up to 5 minutes they'd like to give to get us inspired about something you're working on? Nope.
Seems not. So
Well, it's not even a 5-minute talk, just an update for who may be interested. As you may imagine, I keep working on vector graphics on Quiz, and in not much time we will have a new set of SVG icons to make our system look nicer. And I'm pushing stuff to GitHub almost every day. So it keeps going on.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
very nice. Well, I'm still working on the new JIT for SqueakJS, but yeah, just making slow progress.
Can I come in?
That's great. I saw you posted some tiny benchmarks numbers, and they are very, very impressive, really.
Do they?
Yeah, agreed.
My
Agreed.
phone's gonna
It's
die. I
just
have to plug it in quick.
yes, plug it in. Yeah. So as long as that new JIT keeps on the fast path, it's very, very fast. It just falls off the fast path a lot right now still. So overall, it's, I don't know, I think slower than the old JIT right now. It can run the benchmarks very fast, but everything else is kind of slow.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah.
It's kind
I'd be
of
worried if it didn't, because you might
performance,
be you might be tempted not to work on it if you didn't at least get the benchmarks to be faster.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, there's stuff that isn't even implemented. Like I didn't implement the blocks. So anytime the code encounters a block, which happens a lot in Smalltalk, it goes back to the interpreter and runs at interpreter speed. So it works, but it's not fast yet.
So we are still far from Morphic running in the same league as the benchmarks, for example.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I have a little bit of news. I've come up with a user experience design for using the Smalltalk tool set in 3D as part of an environment I'm building for live coding virtual reality environments. So the whole motivation of this was to be able to live code VR without taking my VR headset off. So I have the beginnings of a new system called Worldly, and it's based around these oblong cubes that
like
have
a square egg?
Well, they're sort of cubes, but they're elongated, and on the wide sides are 4 of the more commonly used Smalltalk tools. There's a browser and a workspace and an inspector / explorer. You can toggle between them. And the 4th one is just a bunch of buttons you can press to get more tools. And then the short faces of the cube just have bright colors on them, so you can take these blocks and stack them if you want to, and see them from across a scene. But so far, this is an interesting way of doing things so that you don't have to keep coming back to a central traditional 2D Smalltalk interface to write code. You can kind of take your tools with you as you're exploring the VR scene.
Cool.
But you're
Yeah.
basically still typing code, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although there are some interesting physical interactions, like the inspector face of this cube, the thing it's inspecting can be changed by taking the whole cube and making it intersect with something in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to inspect, a tree, you can just intersect this cube with that tree, then it kind of sponges up the thing that you made it collide with.
Nice, like a lens.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of playing around with, what are the expectations that are interesting to have in a space like this.
In the original self-morphic, they didn't have the halos that you have in the Squeak Morphic. They had a tool called the core sampler, which had like a pointer in the pixel that you pointed to. Then it would show all the morphs starting from the closest to you to the most. So it was like a inspector that wherever you pointed it, it show you the vertical structure.
Or like the eyedropper tool in a lot of paint programs. Yeah.
When I started Smalltalk, I did for this cool drag and drop object system. And you know the way all objects have print on or print string to represent themselves using a string? Well, likewise, every object had sort of a display image. And Macintosh had just come out with being able to customize your icons in the Finder. And there was everyone was producing a lot of these. So I had a lot of fun trying to decide what kind of icons objects it should have. So like nil was the Ghostbusters logo. And of course, the important one is what's object? I used sort of the yellow smiley face because I wanted a happy object system. And I used pool balls for the first, 15 Smallingers.
I'll be right back.
Cool.
Well, it was kind of fun because objects could also, create a dynamic image icon based on their state. And I had a little something for classes so you can see them iconically as opposed to their instances, and modify the tools so inspectors, in additional to having the ordinary way you can look at the instance variables, you'd also use the icon for that particular slot. It was kind of fun. It was visceral, moving things around. It felt sort of like a self.
Cool. Well, let's see. Ken, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, sure. This is about Quis, but I'm going to start with a biblical quote. First thing I want to try to do is get the quote up here, and I have to, here we are. So the Bible. And so Dan's first rubric is first designed with his personal mastery. If a system is to serve the creative spirit, it must be entirely comprehensible to a single individual. So
That's the kind of gospel I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, quoting scripture to the deity is, it's tough. But I guess that's what we do. Let me see if I can get back to Quis now. Hello. Uh-oh. Here we are.
Oops.
Okay, let's see if we can do that. Now I have to actually switch the screen here. You're not seeing behind the scenes. There's all of these players that are happening. So Quis is a personal Smalltalk that strives for usable simplicity. And we all know that usable simplicity is a huge amount of work, or at least it's not necessarily hard, but it's continuous work. And the fundamental idea is that the base IDE, the base Quis image, has everything you need for code development and strives to remove everything you can do without. We want to reduce cognitive load, and if you're not using it, you shouldn't have to continuously pay for it. So what do we mean by this? So let me get a workspace up here. And you'll have to tell me if these fonts I'm using are the wrong scale. I've got a very high density screen here, so I don't know about the scale and how it's going to show up there. What the proxy I use for basic system complexity in the base image is just the number of classes. So if we do that up, the current Quis image has 588 classes. Okay, and now I want to go and show some siblings. So I'm going to have to, again, do some behind the screen changes. Apologies for the rough. Here we are. Okay, so sibling dialects, Quis, Squeak, Smalltalk 80 was a fairly small number of classes, the base image. Early Squeaks were pretty small, and we got into multimedia, which necessarily expanded things in very good ways. And, then we got into e-toys and whole bunches of things, and a lot of things sort of tended to stick onto the main image. And so Quis is part of, Juan can correct me, but part of a reaction to that sort of explosion in the number of classes and stuff. And so Quis is generally between 500 and 600 classes. We're always trying to simplify and squeeze things out. But again, we're always adding things like the token completion and syntax highlighting and Ernan's refactoring tools and that sort of thing. So as usual, things, bounce around a bit, but we're trying to keep things reasonably compact. And I won't say anything about, factor 15 and all that stuff, but anyway. So let me go back to my Quis image if I can, and get back to the fun stuff. Where are we here? Oh, come on. Okay, so I have to say share, and then I again lose what you're seeing, but I can go back here. So hopefully you're seeing my workspace now. Okay, so one of the, this is something that should be, they're familiar to, comfortable to squeakers because you got all the browsers for class and hierarchy and protocol and changes and packages and yada yada. But one of the reasons that that Quis can be compact is we have a composition strategy. And let me just show you that. The idea is that you have named features and you can just require them. So I'm going to bring in some more morphs. And you notice this partial string is red, and when I type the close quote, we really do have syntax highlighting. And just to make it comfortable, I'll first do it. I'll do it this way. Okay, so I'm just adding a bunch of morphs and some various things that are used more once in a while. And here we are, get all the graphics.
Is it downloading that stuff from the internet, or is it on your local disk?
No, I'll show you that. I'll show you that presently. But now we're up to 635 classes. And let me just show you that. I'll open up a installed packages. And so you see we've got some features that got pulled in when I asked for, pardon me, the Morphic MISC1 thing. You see we've got some requirements here. So this is, list provide requires. So there's some requirements and some version requirements in terms of the features that you're pulling in. And one of the things, of course, that happens with, so these features live in packages. And one of the things that happens is refactoring happens and something that some package depends on changes, so you have to update it to view the world. And so that's easy to do by hitting update here. And so it just went from 1.4 to 1.8, which is to say it's easy to update to the current version of the package that's loaded in the image right now. And if we look something here, it's easy to add a requirement because you get your choice of packages that are loaded that are not already required. And then you can just keep up with the the front as it moves forward, so to speak. And so it just and this leads to a style where you tend to start the morning with a fresh image. You bring in whatever packages require. You go ahead and do your coding, and then you save that out as into a package. And then you blow the image away. You never bother saving it. And the next morning you do it again. And so this is proved to be a fairly reliable method for us to do things. And it seemed to be working out for us. And so let me open up a file list to show you what this looks like on the inside, if you will. And so what happens is we don't maintain a list of search paths or anything like that. Basically, when a feature is looked for, it's first looked for in the image directory and its subdirectories, and then it's looked for in the siblings of that image directory and its subdirectories. So the package I just loaded was actually in Morphic sibling directory and Morphic MISC1, and we actually take a look at the code. And you'll see this is varying to the chunk format, and it provides a named feature, and then it has the requirements, and you can actually specify a minimum and maximum version and revision if you want, but most of the time it's just the minimum reversion. Anyway, so it's just a fairly simple way of keeping things minimalist, but at the same time pull in the things that you need, and it makes you think. It encourages you to think compositionally. So you're not just once the base image is small, so you can understand the base more easily, and then when you want to understand a feature, you just have to look at the things that it's the delta, the stuff that it's bringing in, and that will then you can understand things in terms of the composition of what's there and the delta, whatever changes are being made. So you can learn things. You can chew the elephant one bite at a time. I hate that metaphor, but oh well. So it's easy to do that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's just one way of keeping the world a little saner. I'm going to try to remember to hit the push pins because otherwise these are one shot. So I want to show you a menu before I do this, and then I'm going to do feature require morph meta properties. So you see the difference. Okay, so do that. And now this is going to bring in a bunch of stuff because it's bringing in color editor and color naming dictionaries and compression and complex numbers and all kinds of stuff. So it can supply some editors and whatnot. Okay, color editor and okay, so the first thing again, truth in advertising. So we're now up to 684 classes. And now when we take a look at the menu for this morph, you can see there's another section that's been added. So we now have some a little bit more color here with some icons and stuff. We don't need this anymore. And so the idea here is if with a single click, you get an editor or a choice list. And so you can make the idea is just to simply make the visual properties, the visual instance variables of a morph visible and approachable. And so this is just a simple way to do it. And I'll get a color dictionary up here. And the nice thing about color naming schemes is there's so many standards to choose from. Pick a fun color, I don't know, bright blue, what the heck. So the other thing you want to do is to be able to drag and drop properties around. And so I don't know if you noticed, but if when I drop this, there's just a little green box around the edge. Okay. If I try to drop a color, say onto a point, see a little X, I'll do it again. Just, you know, so there's just a little feedback about, you know, when something's appropriate or not to do a drop. Sorry, this actually little thing is since I dropped a value here, that was actually I meant to grab a color and not this 16, the value 16, but if you grab one of these things out here, that's a sign morph, and all it is for things that don't have a visual representation, it's just a print string, and it has a reference to the value itself. So you can go ahead and, so for example, let's get this menu up here. And so we can take that's a morph extent. That's not going to be as helpful as a morph position. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing here. And drop the morph position. And you see now the upper left corner there was that was the morph position for this thing. So it's easy to share values. And the idea is just to reduce the friction in the user interface. Okay, so let me show you where, I guess, to get some of this stuff from. And I'm going to get a label morph just to orient here. And we'll do a copy of that. And okay, so I want to make it bold. Oops. And I forgot to hit the push pin, so you can see that it's nice for one shot, but I really want to do more than that, so I have to remember to keep this thing around. Yeah. On this screen, the pixels are very small, so it's easy for me to miss things. And let's go ahead and make that, oops, a little brighter color. Got to make sure I drop it actually on the color. There we are. And bigger font. Oh, that's still a fairly small font. Let me do something here. If I go ahead and set the system font to be a true type font, then we'll get a couple of true type fonts. I could load a bunch of things. So again, this is one's vector graphics code. It's easy to do auto loading stuff once you can do the feature require thing. And so this is actually loading all of the rendering. There's no plugin here. There's no tree type plugin that we're going out to. This is actually all being rendered in Smalltalk. So you can actually look at the code and see what's going on there. So now let me get a bit larger font here. Okay, and then I would like to see where we live. So https github.com Quiz, Smalltalk. And the directory for development is Quiz, Smalltalk.
You need 2 slashes before GitHub.
Yeah, I'm not loading this, but yes, I was planning on fixing that just for variety's sake. Okay, and oops, make enough room here. Okay, and you'll see this looks like a much larger menu, but it's basically because the aspect ratio of the TrueType font's different. But again, I want to share the color. I want to make that bold. I want to take a font and use the same font. And then somewhere here, edit the label. And my email is ken.dickey@woodbe.com. And if I can, sausage fingers, pardon me. Sorry, mouse drift. Okay, you got the mouse there, Ken. We can do it. Every time I let go of the mouse, I have an old mouse here I'm using this for this thing, and so it unfortunately tends to drift a little. Woodbe.com. Okay, there we are. So you can see once you start doing drag and drop stuff, you kind of get addicted to these little things working for you and like that. So that's the basic idea, is just to make morphs a little more approachable by making the properties visible and being able to either click edit or select, or to be able to share by drag and drop. Okay. Let me clear some of this stuff out. And sorry, clean some of this up. Oh, just as an aside, you may have noticed the toolbar down here. If you drag this across, it shows whatever is under the whatever the thumbnail is. It gets expanded again. If you click once, then it stays up, and you can either click again to get it to go small again, or you can say, oh yeah, iconize yourself or whatever. Just a way to keep the desk a little less cluttered and so forth. Okay, so I want to show how these things work with layouts, because that's kind of an interesting thing in Quiz. So let me get a layout morph. And so the idea with layouts is just very simple. You want to do things compositionally with basically rows and columns. And so let me get a couple of things to add to this. Okay, bordered rect morph, make it a little bigger so we can see it. And go ahead and, oops, make more than one of those. And we'll just embed it. All right. And likewise. Oh yeah, I better show you that. Let's be a little fun here. Once you get used to drag and drop and palettes, you start playing around with things. So I just wanted to show you, again, just a little bit of visual feedback. This is, I think we only do one. I mean, a lot of people contribute to this stuff, so it's hard to say that. Let me move this to one side so you see what's going on here. But when I do the embedding, I have a choice. Now the layout morph, you see it's highlighted, and I have the ellipse morph. So when I'm going along here, deciding where to what supermorph to make this a submorph of, then I'm not confused about where I'm actually dropping it. You know, again, you're just talking about pixels that are deep or whatever, and that sort of thing. So it's easy to you know, have some confidence you're actually dropping something into the right spot. Okay, and one more. And eventually we get there. Right, sorry, embedding. Okay, so here we have a layout, and you see it lays things out in a row, and it's got this kind of a shrink wrap effect. Layout wants to contain all of its submorphs. And if we get an editor for this, and I remember to hit the push pin, we can, you know, go ahead, do all the usual sorts of things we want, update it, add some extra stuff, move it around left and right, make a row into a column, whatever we want to do, change the color, play around with it, and like that. And again, if you change a morph, then it goes and tries to, you know, contain it. So the truth in advertising is that all of this stuff is the way the UI works. And so, and let me go ahead and actually show a little debug affordance I made. Bring up an inspector, and I want to say self colorize layouts. And so that just adds a tint. Oops, sorry. I'm a visual thinker, and I can go in the Explorer, and you know, but once you compose layouts down to 2 or 3 levels, I get confused. It's easier to do it this way. So you can see this is everything's rows and columns. And so the idea is that you can just, you know, you have an idea for, you know, some browser or whatever, you want to put it together. You can just take the morphs, paste them together like you want. And then once you get the behavior you want, then writing the code is darn easy. And again, truth in advertising here, let's browse the morph class. And so what typically is you have a build Morphic window, and it goes through and you know, sets up the layouts, and it's compositional, and so it's the usual you know, sort of stuff. But it's not a lot of code, and once you know the behavior that you're going to want here, that's pretty easy stuff. Okay. The other thing about layouts, of course, is you want more than, you know, just a row. You'd like to be able to do some proportionality and those sorts of things. And so, the menu back on these things. There we are. Try to hit the push pin. Got it. Hey, hey. And so the idea is a morph can have a layout spec, which tells its containing layout morph how it wants to be laid out. And so the layout does your major axis, your horizontal, vertical, row or column. And then, but the off axis, we can update. Oops, gotta hit the push pin. We can update Get the layout spec editor again, hit the push pin so it stays up, so it's more than a one shot. And so we can make this proportional width, maybe 30%, 200 pixel minimum, and, I don't know, 50%, and whatever. And you know, you can make it anywhere up or down or whatever. And so then when you move things around, we get proportional layouts and you know, again, sort of the shrink wrap effect and like that. And so, you know, once is happenstance, twice is circumstance, three times you've discovered a natural law. So again, that was just a one shot, but you get the idea. So again, the idea is you can set this up. And then I just want to show you briefly how little code is there doing this. Browse more class. So a layout morph, when sizes changes, it acts to lay out its submorphs. And so if its direction is horizontal, then it lays them out horizontally, otherwise vertically. And the horizontal and vertical code is exactly the same code with X for Y and width for height. And so let me just show you that because there's not much of it. Okay, so this is the whole thing for laying out horizontally, which means laying out with the row. And so what it does is it goes through and goes to the submorphs, asks each of the minimum size, you know, the separation, so you can calculate the minimum size that the layout morph should be. And anything that's left over, you can adjust things to the left or right as requested, and then any additional space is handed out proportionally. And the only complex method here is this off horizontal metric. And if we take a look for that, that's just replacing a single morph, and again, moving it up or down and giving it proportional width or height as appropriate. And that's it. This is the entire amount of code for laying stuff out in Quis for all the editors and everything else. And you know, we think it works out pretty well for us. But if you just if you take this code and contrast it with whatever authoring system you're you know, however you're doing layouts, I think it'll show up well that it's really a fairly compact and easy way to do things. Anyway, I just okay, so that's really the I guess from there we ought to get just into the operational mechanics of this stuff. So that's the basis of this this whole thing, and that's the 20,000-foot view or whatever. Okay, so let me get a browser, and I'm gonna alpha sort this because we loaded some things and they come in load order. And I'm going to type M because I happen to know that morph meta properties is the first M. That's easy. And so again, the sorry, I can grab that. The morph menu, which has these visual property elements, is you know, it all you're doing is you're annotating. You have to annotate a property, so an instance variable, so that the system knows to be able to generate this menu. And so those annotations I'm calling meta properties. And one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that that drag and drop works, so that when you pull something out, whether it's a color swatch or a sign morph or whatever the heck it happens to be, and when it's dropped, you have to check for a legal move. And so the meta property has, there are a bunch of meta properties here, and as you might suspect, they're based around acceptance tests. So you can ask for something to be a particular class or a choice set or some number of point range or whatever it happens to be, or even something arbitrary, arbitrary tests to make sure that whatever's being dropped on you is a sensible thing to do. And meta properties are immutable, so they shouldn't cost much because you can share them. And if we take a look at initialize, we get a dictionary of predefined properties and then a dictionary that maps the classes, morph classes into metaprops. So here's something that accepts a string. So it just takes a string, and then its edit property takes a morph and metaprop itself and a menu item, and it knows all the setters and getters, and in order to be able to put up some editor choice set for that particular panel. And these are the common properties: accepts a point or a rectangle and so forth. If font chooser, whatever it happens to be. So it's fairly, what I think of as fairly straightforward mechanics, fairly standard mechanics on this stuff. And if we take a look at how this fits together. Okay, so meta properties are inherited by the class hierarchy. So morph has a layout spec. A widget morph is a morph which also has an extent and a position and a color and a border color. And color and border color both accept a color. So they're, again, sharing meta properties. And so all of the, the typical morphs are in here. And when you want to go through and subclass a morph and add some interesting visual properties, then actually, if I go back to look at the meta property itself, this initialize dictionaries, does add to initial dictionaries. So you just put a you just fill in the form, if you will, for the class initializer, and everything happens as you expect. And I guess I should show you the inheritance code. Meta props for morph. So if you've got a morph, then you get the class, you check it in the dictionary, and you get an empty dictionary if nothing's there. And then this is code you can write in your sleep. You go up the superclass chain, and if you haven't seen the instance variable name before, then you add it. Otherwise, you don't, because more specific things override, that kind of stuff. So this is all pretty standard, I think. And then that allows you to make visual property menu items, which is just a specialization which has the little icon and knows what target morph it's updating, and it has a setter and a getter. And so that's it. I think you've probably seen enough here that you could probably now write this code yourself in half a day or whatever it is. But that's the basic idea, and that's the basics of the operational mechanics. Okay. So what I would like to do now is actually a lightning talk. This is somewhat almost unrelated to what went before. Just some stuff that's half baked. I tend to do what I think of as code sketches, where I sort of think in code. And so I'm going to require something called Morphic. And do it. I do a lot of visual things, so a lot of things have morph in the name. I just seem to can't seem to get away from that. And so now I've got some stuff. I got 742 classes here. And if I do morph it, sample palette, I now get a palette of morph modifiers. So I go ahead and reuse some of these things. I'm going to have to, oops, let's actually grab the right thing here. So we can do some things with them. All right, I can get rid of the layout now. Okay, and so this is actually an idea that comes a little bit from multimedia development, where you're doing things with palettes, and a little bit from something some of you people may remember, Magic Lens. And the idea here is to get a drop target. And actually, if I expand that, you can see it. That name actually means something. But the idea of the drop target is that if you're building tools that operate in morphs, you don't really want to clutter the morph code or be doing instrumentation there. So you want some kind of an affordance which mediates between your tool set and the morph itself. So you can go ahead and that's what this drop target does. It knows how to handle changing a property, or in this case, let's go ahead and give it a behavior. You see the behavior sticks. And so if I click now, I get grow and shrink behavior. And if we get the drop target again, then you note that it's still there. So the idea is that this drop target, it acts like a lens, like an X-ray, a little bit into the inside of a morph. So you can see using something like this with a mapping program or something like that, where you sort of do a little X-ray and you can show some hidden properties of something that's inside that you wouldn't otherwise see. And let me show you how this is done on the inside. Again, just to lift the skirts a bit. So I want to, let's grab an Explorer. And each morph idiosyncratically has 0 or more property, zero or one property dictionary. And so you see you've got handles mouse down and mouse modifiers and mouse button up. And these are closures in the property list. And if we then go ahead and let's get a look at the message name. So if we say something like mouse button 1 up local position. Okay, so any class, of course, can override the default behavior. But if you take a look at the backstop, the morph, its default behavior is to do the default unless there's a property which has the same symbol name as the selector, in which case that value is presumed to be a closure which takes the right number of arguments and you just hand them in. So actually adding behaviors to morphs with this kind of a strategy is again, it's a simple thing to do, but it allows you to approach things in a slightly different way. Okay, let's drop target. I'm gonna add the bounce to that. And this guy, drop target for that. Maybe add some color cycling. And so here, if I just have the mouse over, you can see it changes. And You get the usual sort of things that we like to have. And of course, these things are be done compositionally. Got a drop target for that, and let a bounce to that too. Okay, so you got both behaviors there. And just to show that it's not all magic and mirrors. Okay, go ahead and have a bounce here too. Okay, so that's just you know just a little bit of adding a little bit of liveness and a little bit of fluidity to working with morphs, and also a brief introduction to Quees Smalltalk. So you know where to get it. The Quees book is Creative Commons, and source code is all MIT open source. So there's no problems with any of that kind of stuff. And I particularly have to thank Juan, as the father of Quees, who's been shepherding us along all these years. I think he's, you know, as your children grow up, it's really hard to be a parent. And I think he's, I have to really applaud Juan for sticking to it all these years and continuing to progress and do some fun things. Okay, so let me see if I can't get back to the meeting and let's see. That I don't see myself here yet. Oh.
There you are.
I am. I'm back. Shocking. Okay, so I haven't been watching for questions and all that kind of stuff because I kind of wanted to get through this. So I guess it's just time for Q&A. Let's see. Are we only describing what's on the monitor? I hope you saw that stuff. As otherwise they spent a lot of time boring you to death with a gray screen or whatever.
Yeah, that's old. That was from before you started. So no questions in the meantime. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Well,
any questions?
Sorry, I'm reminded of John. Sorry, I'm reminded of John McCarthy when he was asked about the success of Lisp, you know, because of AI, and his response was, "Pick a problem that only you can solve." And I think the thing is, with Smalltalk, we have so much leverage. We're able to lift above our weight in so many areas with Smalltalk code that. I think there are a lot of idea mines out there still to be mined. You know, again, you know, this was, you know, from background in, you know, Skate and Anthropolis and multimedia tools, but there's just a lot of things out there that I think we, you know, are still left to be explored. And then you got wacky people like me that you know, take off in a different direction and whatnot. Anyway, I think Quees as a personal Smalltalk has gone in a different direction than somebody that wants to be delivering you know, an application across platforms with the application specific look and feel and all that kind of stuff. But it makes it really a nice platform to learn things and to try things out. Apologies. Okay, let somebody get a word in edgeways. I can stop talking for 20, 30 seconds at a time if I have to.
Any questions?
I just want to say that actually looked fairly similar to the system I was describing earlier. I noticed you had those menus you'd pin up where you could drop in points or numbers or colors. But that menu was created from the morph properties, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So it seems like it would be very simple to have a menu you could pop up that just generated pseudo properties based on the instance variables of an object, and you could get something very similar like drag and drop inspector.
Yeah, actually there's a little finesse in there because some properties, even though they're visual properties in a morph, or you know, there are certain aspects of morph you don't really want to put out simply because either they're confusing or they complexify things, and it's not easy to handle them in a coherent way across authoring tools or whatnot.
That is true, but
that's why the annotations are there, is to say, okay, what are reasonable behaviors and how do you compose things that.
No, I like the way you had the whole acceptance thing there. I guess it's presumed that when you're an inspector and you just go instance variable get some expression, that you know what you're doing. You're basically forcing something, that isn't programmed into that object, but you're a programmer. It's more of a debugging thing, and all bets are off. I do have to say that I remember once I had the system. I had an inspector opened on, I think it was like a process, and I just accidentally brushed the mouse. In doing so, and my whole VM crashed. And I figured out what had happened is I'd accidentally dragged some object into one of the VM known instance variable slots. Like, you can't just put any object in a suspended context.
Right, setting Smalltalk to nil is a good way to do that too.
Sorry, what?
Setting Smalltalk to nil is a good way to do that too.
Well, that'll make the system unusable possibly, but I don't think that would crash the VM.
Oh, well, it depends on where it happens, I think, or when.
Well, it's always interesting to take pot shots, but there are certain slots that the VM depends on. Certainly, like, for instance, if you drop some random object like in the format of a behavior or its method dictionary, but I like the way you had that acceptance.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make any claim to originality or anything. I'm just trying to say that there's some things that I tend to use that make my life a little easier. And again, I think of idea mines. I think open source and let 1,000 flowers bloom, and find out anything that we can do for ourselves to make our life a little easier. And again, the nice thing with Quiz is you can go through and you can auto load things so that things stay out of your way until you actually need them. And if you never need them, then great, you're not paying for them. But if you need them, they're there. So it's an easy way to gain access to things. And I think we've done a fairly good job, really of keeping things compact and about as simple as we can make them, and still have all of the feature-rich environment.
No, it looks very cool. My personal experience with being able to do the drag and drop with, like, very often I'd have two inspectors open on two objects, and I'm just like hacking around. And I go, I want this object from this inspector in this slot of this object, and typically what I'd do is I would just say some global variable gets self in one, and then I go instance variable gets that global variable to do it. But that just feels so awkward compared to
Yeah, one thing I didn't show is in generally those small editors and the menus, you could make a selection to say show the construction handles on the morph that I'm operating on. So if you have multiple menus up that both look very similar, you can say which morph is this one actually mutating, and so again, it's a way to keep oriented and not confuse yourself unduly.
I like the way your system had a lot of visual affordances to keep you guided. I really liked that. Like the little green rectangle to show you that you'd actually successfully done a drop as opposed to a reject.
We live in hope, yeah. User interfaces are all about visibility and control. Where am I and what can I do here? And I think immediacy and feedback are really, really important. I know Dan would disagree with all these things, but yeah, absolutely. I got to thank you. Again, this is we can't preach too much in front of God, right? But Dan, we really do appreciate your efforts all these years, and we continue to listen to your early wisdom, whatever you've done lately.
Oh, thanks. You're very kind. It was, I tell you, it was all fun. We did it because it was fun and exploration. And I like your thinking that there's still a lot of good ideas out there. And I guess the question is, what are the next problems we want to solve, or the next set of people we want to enable?
Well, I tend to think in terms of, like the Raspberry Pi Foundation was set up because when I started out, I mean, I had chips I could put together, and I could do a simple circuit board and try a bunch of things out. And the world was simple enough. Like I say, I brought up a real-time kernel with a prom burner and a logic analyzer, but before the huge multi-core SoCs came out which take you 3 pages of code just to set up the virtual memory, as part of the bootstrap. The world was a lot simpler, and so I think starting out at a personal level in a simple world that you can explore and get your orientation, then if you're able to do the rings of growth around that, it's just I'm a big believer in orientation and feedback on things, and I think we need to do as good a job as we can on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. There's one thing in that direction that I never solved to my satisfaction. I never really put time on it, but somebody once wrote me a message saying, well, I've got all the Smalltalk sources, and if I just read them in, does that do it? and no, it doesn't, because you got you need a system dictionary, and the stuff goes in the system dictionary, and this, that, and the other thing. And it always seemed to me it would be nice to do a good pictorial or iconic job of explaining what all the structure is that's there. If you know to open a browser and inspect a system dictionary, then you can get that. But your first time user that walks up to it doesn't see that. And yet it is a sort of an organic whole, and you ought to be able to have that new person get that same feel that you have from knowing where everything is.
Yeah, I think part of the balance of not having too much clutter and having things reveal themselves, compositionally, if you will, is to having you have to initially know what's there for all these things that are staying out of your way, but they're just a mouse click or two away that are there to help you. If you take a look at the Quiz website, there's a learning quiz under Quiz Smalltalk and there's the Quiz book is in there, and actually you might just enjoy reading that. It's an introduction for new Smalltalkers or whatever, and there's some tutorials there and stuff. But we think the same. We're thinking the same way. It's we like systems to explain themselves more, and again, make the operation, the model, simple enough, but visual enough, and able to reveal itself in more complexity as is only is required. So it's always it's a balance. There are a lot of design decisions, and I think in code, so I tend to do code sketches. I'm a rough carpenter, not a finished carpenter, and so I can tinker my way to success, but I can't do the grand plan anymore. So it's just my brain is shrunk down. I can't use Pharaoh; it's too complex. Anyway, fun stuff.
I think that what we have done in Quiz with removing everything that could be considered applications and not Smalltalk kernel is the first step in the direction you are saying, Dan.
I agree.
And the something between Smalltalk, the size of Smalltalk 80 and the size of Quiz is around the minimum for a reasonable working system that can grow. So the next step cannot be removal of code. Okay, we need a simplifying lens to look at the system in a way to see what subsets or what parts of what simplified view of the system to show to newcomers who are not ready for the full complexity of the Smalltalk image. I think you raise an important topic there, and it's something that we should search a solution for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also believe that, you know, having things work together so that you can have, there are a lot of people that learn things in different ways, and there are people that are language oriented and they're really into, you know, parsing and compiling and all of the, you know, pattern matching things, but they don't necessarily are not necessarily visual thinkers. And there are people like me that, you know, I want to see things visually, and I understand structure, you know, as visual composition and that kind of stuff. And people have different learning styles. Some people are really, you know, tuned into the audio, and if they don't hear it, they don't really get it. And other people, like with me, if I hear it, if I don't see it, I may not get it because my processing is deficit in that area or something. But so I think you know, it's like you have Smalltalk code where you're trying to make things very, you know, sentence-like, so they read well. But then there's things like the blocks type of stuff, which is also wonderful. And some people, you know, learn better in one context or another. You know, we like to allow multiple ways in that are sensible and coherent. And I think getting the minimalism and the coherency with enough features that you know, we're actually doing things with what we got is the you know, the goal for all of us here.
One thing I would like to remark
I just want to jump in for a sec. Great talk. I love that. I promised a friend I'm taking him to the airport, so I got to bug out. But great talk. I loved it.
See you, Mike.
Very welcome.
All right.
Glad you
Bye-bye.
joined.
Okay, I just wanted to do a small remark, if you allow me. What you just said, Ken, that everybody has different styles for learning or different preferences on how to approach something to learn or something to describe or something to explain to others. I think that what you have done is to show that Quiz is malleable enough so users with different styles or approaches can tweak the system to their preference. I think that is a very valuable thing that you are showing. You are showing how Quiz can be made to better suit your preferences, your style, your way of interacting with stuff that may surely be different from other guys, so such as myself or everybody else. Each one of us is unique in that regard. Mm-hmm. So you show how someone can appropriate the system and make it theirs, and that's great.
Yeah, well, my other predilection is that I have a hard time. I can't just read something and build a model in my head and execute it and have it all work out. I have to do what I think of as code kneading. I have to, you know, bake the bread. I have to go through and make projects for myself. I make a project so I know how to do things because it makes me make concrete design decisions, some of which are bad and I have to retract on. But I have to do concrete decisions and I have to get something working. And that allows me to go forward and have confidence that I'm actually able to do something when I'm able to make some changes to achieve an effect.
About 2 years ago, I saw a scientific paper where the authors were proving that don't exist different learning styles. So I thought, well, have they ever stepped into a classroom? That's not possible. I mean, you sit down, you look to the guy in your that's to your left, and it's completely different. So how can they claim that this is a myth that somebody created and everybody learns the same? I really don't get it.
And could you make any sense of what they were trying to say, or it was just useless for you?
Yeah, we're trying to prove something that, I mean, who hasn't experienced where? For example, when I was a student, I had some teachers that insisted that you had to copy on a notebook what they were writing on the blackboard. And that's great for half of the class, but for me, that was the same as me not being there, because I wrote slowly and then the guy was already erasing. So I could have stayed home and I would have learned as much. Whereas the guy sitting next to me, that's what made them learn, because when they if they just read it, they wouldn't learn it. So when they wrote it themselves, then they would learn. So that's how the world works. And like you said, a lot of people are visual thinkers. There's some concrete thinkers. So that was David Unger's motivation for the self-language, where he said, well, there's a group of people that don't think in terms of abstractions, only in terms of concrete. So instead of starting with the class, you start with the instance. So these people start with at the end, after you tinker around for half an hour, you end up with a structure that looks like a class. But that's not where you start. That's where you end. Whereas for another person that has a more mathematical mind, you think in terms of general concepts, in terms of abstraction. So you start with the most abstract class, and then you create 3 subclasses and go on. So there is no system that will be equally good for everybody. We're all different. So really applaud your goal.
Sounds like a strange kind of wishful thinking to wish that everyone thought the same. How wonderful it is that we don't. Yeah.
Well, I remember Feynman got asked when he was teaching physics what teaching his style was, what his strategy was. And he says that he uses all teaching styles because some students learn better one way and some another. And one person would get it and would stick a certain style. And but he had to teach with a variety of styles to make sure that everybody was, being able to take it in.
Something that I think is a limitation of any programming system, at least for me, or for the way I think of stuff, is that I need a pen and paper. I cannot think without a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper. And I do all kind of silly drawings that are worthless in the next minute. And then I find a new idea and draw something different. And I do that all the time. And only when I understand what I am trying to say, I am able to start coding it. And I will code it first in a workspace because I don't know the structure it will have when it means something. And only when I've been at something for maybe even a few hours, I can start writing a class. So I think that the final form of the code doesn't include all the scaffolding I did when I tried to learn what I was trying to mean. And not even Smalltalk captures that for me. I still need a piece of paper to do that.
I've had the experience where I have trouble explaining something without a whiteboard.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think there is a lot to learn and there is a lot of room to build new things in user interaction with a programming system and new things to try. I don't think that the class browser or the hierarchy browser is the end to it. It's only the beginning.
Yeah, just back to the thinking style. For me, over the years, I started to realize that I have to walk. I have to be walking to be able to think, which sort of doesn't mesh well with, being a developer. But just do my best thinking when I'm walking.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
The other thing about walking,
maybe it would be a good idea to implement Sketchpad in Quiz for you, Juan.
Yeah, I need that. Because some of the details are hard to keep in your head when you walk, and you walk for 3 hours and then you wish to be back home because I want to now, sketch it out or or type it up or whatever, and it's not there.
a notepad in your pocket helps.
Yes,
Yeah.
I always take a notepad and a pen with me.
Really, I should start doing that.
The nice thing about walking, particularly in a natural environment, is you get outside the media bubble. That's the only way I keep sanity is to do that.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I know too much about what's happening in the world.
Yeah,
that's tough. Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I think this is probably a good time to call it a meeting. Thanks for letting me present, and hopefully, I had fun doing all this stuff. So hopefully, you had some, sparks of ideas, and never know where things can lead. So they say, what use is a baby? Some of them grow up to be people.
Well, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
It's been really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Fun.
Take care.
That's great.
I'm smelling dinner cooking from the other room, so I'm about. I have a previous engagement here.
Have a good dinner.
Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.
All right. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. I'll drop out too.
Okay. Thanks again. See you.
Yeah. See you in 4 weeks
Yeah. Or 2 weeks at the UK group.
at the latest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Good evening. Bye.